Have you ever heard of a billionaire guy who crossed oceans in balloons, bet against market giants, and even made it to space? Few people know this crazy guy, and his name is Richard Branson. He is exactly that type of person. With a current fortune estimated at around $5 billion, he is one of the most eccentric billionaires on the planet. Basically, the guy who could buy the moon and still order a pizza on the way. But after all, how did a boy with dyslexia, who dropped out of school early, manage to build a billionaire empire and also gain a reputation as a crazy entrepreneur? Today, you will discover the surprising trajectory of the Virgin founder, his unbelievable victories, his almost catastrophic failures, and, of course, his greatest acts of madness. Some so crazy that you'll wonder if this is real life or a movie script. Richard Charles Nicholas Branson was born on July 18, 1950, in Blackheath, London. The son of a flight attendant and a barrister, his childhood was marked by learning challenges. He suffered from dyslexia and had huge difficulties in school. While teachers said he would never succeed, Richard was already showing signs of restlessness and creativity. His nonconformist spirit soon began to stand out. Still a teenager, he tried to undertake for the first time. At the age of 16, he founded the student magazine Student, aimed at young people looking to discuss politics, culture, and music freely. The publication drew attention for its bold content and interviews with personalities, and ended up being the starting point of Branson's career. What many saw as a youthful hobby was, in fact, the first stone of the Virgin Empire. Little by little, Richard realized that the magazine could be a gateway to something even bigger, the world of music. Inspired by the effervescent cultural movement of the 60s and 70s, he understood that young people longed for novelties and that music was the main language of his generation. This perception was the spark that ignited one of the world's most iconic brands. What seemed like just a teenage experiment transformed into an entrepreneurial vision. And at just 20 years old, Branson was already about to open the musical arm of his brand, Virgin Mail Order. But this was only the first of many bold moves that would transform him into a global symbol. Despite difficulties in school, Branson excelled in everything that involved creativity and audacity. His dyslexia, far from being an obstacle, forced him to think unconventionally. While classmates memorized formulas, he developed practical solutions and learned to delegate tasks to those who mastered what he could not do. This ability to unite different people around an idea would become one of the greatest trademarks of his leadership in the future. The confidence to transform limitations into strength was a trait that would accompany him throughout his life. Student not only opened doors for important contacts, but also solidified Branson's reputation as someone capable of seeing beyond the obvious. At a time when British youth were contesting social and cultural standards, the magazine captured the spirit of rebellion and freedom that hung over London. It was in this counterculture environment that he realized the need to create more than just a communication vehicle. It was necessary to offer an experience that connected with the passions of his generation. Music, fashion, and behavior were interconnected, and Branson began to feel that his future would involve this convergence. At just 20, he had already accumulated lessons that many entrepreneurs would only learn decades later. The audacity of launching Virgin Mail Order was not just a commercial move, but a direct response to young people's desire for novelties. The mail order sales model was risky, but extremely visionary, as it allowed him to reach consumers that traditional stores ignored. This was the true embryo of what would become Virgin Records. The young man, who had been discredited by teachers, was about to challenge giants of the phonographic industry and forever change the way music reached the public. But the next step would be even bolder, opening his own studio and recording artists that no one believed in. In the early 1970s, Branson launched Virgin Mail Order, selling records by mail. The business quickly prospered, mainly because it offered affordable prices and albums that were not easily found in conventional stores. Soon after came the bold step, the opening of Virgin Records. In 1972, the record label started small, with an improvised studio in Oxfordshire, but soon conquered the world with the release of Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. The success was resounding and guaranteed Virgin a place among the world's major record labels. This moment not only filled the company's coffers, but also consolidated Richard Branson as a business visionary. The Virgin Records catalog grew impressively. Artists like Sex Pistols, Rolling Stones, Culture Club, and Phil Collins passed through the label, expanding the brand's influence in the music industry. The record label was not afraid to bet on controversial names and musical genres that other companies avoided. This rebellious spirit was a direct reflection of Branson's personality. During the 70s and 80s, Virgin Records became synonymous with innovation and irreverence. Branson not only attracted artists, but also created an aura of freedom around the company. His relaxed and unconventional way of leading contrasted sharply with the seriousness of other music magnates. This captivated both musicians and the public. However, success also brought new challenges. Aggressive expansion required capital, and Branson began to take more and more risks with new investments. The young businessman was only warming up the engines, and the world would still see how far his audacity would go. One of the factors that consolidated Virgin Records was the bet on innovative marketing and differentiated experiences. Branson understood that selling music was not just distributing albums, but creating an emotional bond with the public. Promotional releases, exclusive events, and bold album covers helped the record label stand out among established giants. He also invested in tours and intimate shows, bringing artists and fans closer in an unprecedented way, and turning each release into a cultural event. This differentiated approach gave Virgin its own identity, impossible to be easily copied. Furthermore, the record label began to experiment with new recording technologies and musical production. Branson encouraged studios to adopt modern equipment and innovative techniques, which allowed for greater sound quality and creative freedom for the artists. The company also explored alternative formats, such as double albums and promotional singles, increasing the diversity of the catalog. This combination of artistic boldness and entrepreneurial vision not only elevated the brand, but also made talented musicians seek Virgin as the ideal record label to express their creativity without limitations. The initial success of Virgin Records opened the doors for Branson to explore other areas of entertainment and business. With newfound confidence and a consolidated reputation, he began to dream beyond music. Airplanes, trains, beverages, and even futuristic tourism spaces. The experience acquired with artist management, complex contracts, and aggressive marketing served as a foundation for his next initiatives to be even bolder and riskier. This period of expansion and experimentation prepared the ground for the next chapter of his trajectory. Branson has always been known for pushing the limits. In the 80s, he decided to challenge the world records for crossing oceans in boats and hot air balloons. In 1986, he tried to cross the Atlantic in the boat Virgin Atlantic Challenger, but the vessel sank, and he was rescued by the British Coast Guard. The following year, he managed to break the record for the fastest Atlantic crossing in a new boat. The Virgin Atlantic Challenger II, his passion for aerial adventures also became legendary. In 1987, he and Per Lindstrand crossed the Atlantic in a hot air balloon, setting a historic feat. 3 years later, in 1991, they attempted to cross the Pacific in another balloon, once again marking history with courage and madness. Each adventure seemed to reinforce his image as a billionaire willing to risk everything for the impossible. But it wasn't just the records that fueled his fame. Branson also tried to challenge markets dominated by giants. In 1984, he launched Virgin Atlantic Airways, which started with only one aircraft. The company quickly won customers by offering differentiated services, such as innovative in-flight entertainment and more relaxed customer service. It was Virgin's audacity facing much larger airlines. However, the risks also brought moments of crisis. In 1992, Branson was forced to sell Virgin Records to Thorn EMI for about $1 billion, a decision that made him cry at the moment of signing. Even though it was a painful step, this sale guaranteed the survival of his other businesses and paved the way for even bolder new projects. The adventurous and risky spirit never abandoned Branson. On the contrary, with each fall, he seemed to rise with even more energy to challenge new limits. And the next step of his journey would take his brand to the skies and, later, to space. In addition to crossing records, Branson always sought extreme challenges that would capture global attention. But perhaps one of Richard Branson's most eccentric adventures happened on June 14, 2004. On that day, he decided to cross the English Channel not in a balloon, nor in a boat, but in an amphibious car called the Gibbs Aquada. The vehicle looked like a mix of a boat with a second-generation Mazda Miata and had surprising performance. It reached 160 km/h on land and about 50 km/h in the water. With it, Branson left Dover and arrived in Calais in just 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 6 seconds, a feat that broke the record for the channel crossing in an amphibious vehicle, previously set at more than 6 hours. During the journey, only a few splashes caused by maritime traffic hindered the trip. It was a feat that mixed spectacle, technology, and Branson's typical audacity, transforming the Aquada into a symbol of innovation and reinforcing Virgin's image as a synonym for improbable adventures that border on madness. The list of audacious feats also includes attempts at underwater voyages and forays into futuristic vehicles. Branson invested in prototypes of high-speed boats and even participated in tests with exploration submersibles, always seeking the boundary between the impossible and the achievable. These ventures were risky, expensive, and not always successful, but they reinforced his image as a fearless visionary. Every failure was transformed into learning and global publicity, proving that audacity can be a strategic asset when well explored. At the same time, his adventures directly impacted his businesses. The launch of Virgin Galactic, still in the 2000s, was born from the same spirit of exploring uncharted territories. Branson began investing in space tourism, something unimaginable for the time, promising to take civilians to Earth orbit. This transition from the sky to space was not only symbolic but strategic, showing that Virgin was not afraid to enter totally new and risky markets. Each bold step prepared the ground for the revolution in transport and futuristic tourism, making it clear that Branson's next frontier would literally be out of this world. At the turn of the millennium, while most companies were still adapting to the internet, Branson was already dreaming of something far beyond: space tourism. In 2004, he founded Virgin Galactic, with the audacious proposal of taking ordinary people to space on suborbital flights. It was an idea that seemed straight out of a science fiction movie, but Branson believed he could make it real. The project attracted worldwide attention, but also faced numerous technical and financial challenges. In 2014, a tragedy shook the company. During a test flight, the VSS Enterprise spacecraft suffered an accident that killed one of the pilots. The episode cast doubt not only on the viability of Virgin Galactic, but also on Branson's space dream. Even so, he didn't give up. After years of research, adjustments, and investments, on July 11, 2021, Richard Branson made his own flight to space aboard the VSS Unity. The feat was historic. He became the first billionaire to reach space in his own company's spacecraft, even before Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. The world watched the live broadcast and saw Branson realize a decades-long dream. Virgin Galactic began selling tickets for tourist flights, with prices reaching $450,000 per seat. Although still a niche market, the initiative paved the way for commercial space tourism. Branson proved once again that he was willing to risk his fortune and reputation in pursuit of seemingly impossible ideas. Today, Virgin Galactic continues to be a symbol of the innovative and daring spirit that Richard Branson represents. Even facing criticism and doubts, he continues to defy the barriers of gravity, literally. Throughout his life, Richard Branson accumulated more than 400 companies under the Virgin Group umbrella, operating in sectors as diverse as aviation, telecommunications, beverages, health, tourism, and even railways. Not all of them succeeded. Failures like Virgin Cola and Virgin Brides show that not even he was infallible. But, in a way, these failures also helped build his image of audacity. Branson has always cultivated a relaxed leadership style, close to his employees. Instead of starched suits, it was common to see him in jeans and a t-shirt, laughing and actively participating in the team's daily life. This charismatic manner transformed him into an icon not only of entrepreneurship, but also of pop culture. His personal madness, such as betting on extreme sports, creating crazy challenges, or appearing in costume at product launches, reinforces his eccentric aura. But behind all this, there is a man who always believed in the importance of dreaming big and never being afraid to fail. This is perhaps his greatest lesson. Today, Richard Branson is remembered not only as a billionaire, but as a tireless adventurer, someone who showed the world that life can be a mixture of serious business with moments of pure fun and madness. His trajectory inspires entrepreneurs, adventurers, and dreamers to never accept imposed limits. And when we think about Branson's legacy, it is clear that his greatest achievement is not just the money or the companies created, but the courage to transform impossibilities into reality. Richard Branson's story is proof that audacity and courage can take a human being far beyond what any business manual teaches. He showed that risking, failing, and trying again is a fundamental part of the journey to achieving great feats. From improvised music studios to outer space, Branson always carried the same essence: to dream big and not be afraid to be different. And now, I want to know, would you have the courage to risk everything for the sake of a dream, as Richard Branson did? Tell me in the comments, because I really want to know your opinion. Oh, and don't forget, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell so you don't miss any of the next stories, and click on the video that is appearing on the screen to continue binge-watching with us. I'll wait for you there.